And welcome live into the first inaugural episode of the Unpaid Interns. We're talking sports all summer long. A collection of us unpaid interns will be together talking sports. Right now, it's me, Austin Render, along with Tamar Scher, live from St. Louis. Tamar, how are you?
I'm so great. How are you doing, Austin?
I'm just excited to get this thing started. We are very fortunate to have a ton of sports news to talk about, which is something we haven't been able to say for the past few months. Quarantine has kind of shut down the sports world. Yesterday, we saw a little bit, just a little bit of that sports world come back tomorrow. NASCAR was officially back with Darlington. Kevin Harvick wins in that match or in that race, and then golf returned in a little bit of a official, not an official event, but close. Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson defeated Ricky Fowler and Matthew Wolff in a playoff hole in an event that raised over, I think, $5 million for charities and for COVID-19 relief. So there was a lot going on yesterday, Tamar. What were you able to catch, if anything, of the live sport? Soccer's back too. I guess I should mention that as well.
Right, German soccer's back,
Yep.
and I think what I've been saying this whole time, Austin, is that people are hungry for sports. I myself am not necessarily a golf or NASCAR fan
That's fair.
typically,
That's fair.
but so I wasn't super eager to hop on. But I know, like, my grandpa and my dad, who I've been with for the past 2 months here in quarantine, they have been able to tackle that, and especially golf. And the charity event was a great way to kind of open up, hey, we want sports back as much as you do, and kind of give fans a taste of what's to come.
Absolutely. Let's give our fans a taste of what's to come tomorrow. This show will be running throughout the summer and hopefully down the road as well. We're not looking too far ahead. We're starting off the first show of the Unpaid Interns. Our plan for this show will be myself, Tamar Scher, along with Connor Hines and Griffin Gonzalez. We will all be kind of switching off as co-hosts, and we will bring in some fantastic guests for you to talk all things sports. Today, we have a fantastic lineup. In about 8 minutes, we will have Trisha Whitaker from as a sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Rays. She'll be joining us to talk MLB and their possible restart in a couple of months. And then we've got Dustin Dopirak, who is coming in from The Athletic. He covers Indiana, Butler, and Purdue basketball. He'll be talking the breaking news that we got today that Christian Lander will be reclassifying into the 2020 class and will join and enroll in Indiana in the fall. So a lot of it worked out very well that we have Dustin coming on, and we had breaking news about half an hour before we came on. So that's kind of how the show's going to look. We'll try and have a couple of guests every day. We'll be running Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Tamar and I have you covered today. We talked a little bit about the live sports. NASCAR returned. You mentioned it. Bundesliga in Germany is back. It is weird to see it with no fans. There were some moments in those soccer games where they'd go up, they'd clap, and there's nobody there. But they're just trying to make the best of it. I don't know. What do you think? What
Well,
would it be
well,
like to go out there with no sports or
with
no
NASCAR in
fans?
particular, I mean, they were saying, I've been reading a bunch of articles on just their return, and like the conversation is with all sports these days, it's okay, when are they going to return? What's it going to look like without fans? And what NASCAR is saying is that's where a lot of the energy comes in. They race for the fans in the audience. So it's a little interesting. I think that's what we're going to see with the MLB kind of controversies as well, with how they're going to be able to return, if they want to return this summer, and how they're going to deal with that, because there's a lot of this is an uncharted territory, as I've said, and I think that's going to be oversaid in this Zoom show. But we just never know what's going to happen, especially just, I think, without fans. Fans really give that element of excitement and energy, so it's going to be different, that's for sure. And I mean, you talk about just sports and people wanting to get their hands on sports, anything sports. You talk about The Last Dance. Tell me about your thoughts of what that has brought to just the community.
Well, we have to talk Last Dance. It ended last night, a 10-part documentary that could not have come at a better time, Tamar. I mean, we were all sitting around second week of March thinking, what the heck are we going to do for the next 2 months without sports? And ESPN moved it up, and they kind of quenched our thirst a little bit for that documentary. For me, I didn't grow up in Chicago. I did not grow up with MJ. So for me, this was an extremely telling documentary. I didn't know some of the background stuff about Michael Jordan. I know his statistics. I know how great of a player he was, but stuff about his family, his father passing away, stuff about, I thought Steve Kerr's story last night about his father and his family was extremely emotional. I mean, I don't know how you watch that and you don't get emotional. And then he hits big shots, and the way that he treated his teammates and his coaching staff, it's just, the whole thing was eye-opening to me. I hadn't heard a lot of the stories, and I just thought it was a really unique documentary that showcased for people of our generation who didn't get to live through Michael Jordan. Like, this is what type of player he was. This is the teammate he was, and these were the types of teams he had.
Right. And I think our generation looks to LeBron James and says that's the greatest of all time player. And then you see Michael Jordan's documentary and that kind of shifts. And now there's that controversy of, okay, who's the better player? And I think what was really awesome about the documentary in particular was that he was seen as a cultural icon. He was that global superpower. I only have gotten so far, so I just watched.
Tamar's behind. No spoilers. No spoilers.
You did give me a couple spoilers, not that I didn't know that, but in episode 6 in particular, he was kind of in 5. That was when he was seen as that global superpower, when he was on that dream team. And it's just, you hear about it and you read stories, but seeing it and seeing how his teammates speak of him, even to this day, is awesome. He is just such a superstar.
How about the quote where he said, "If I could do it again, I would not want to be a role model." I mean, the fame just kind of hit him hard, and you don't think about it. You grow up and you're like, I want to be like all those great athletes, but there is so much that comes with being
be like Mike.
Exactly. There's so much that comes with that we don't even think about. And I mean, we cover sports at a college level, but it just, when you get to the level of a LeBron James, a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, I mean, there's no comparisons. There's no, like, we can't even try to fathom what that is like. Well, that was kind of the big news we've talked about a little bit. We're still slowly getting the sports world going again. There's little tidbits of breaking news here or there. But we have all week kind of heard a little bit about the MLB possible restart and the potential of the MLB coming back maybe in a few months. And in order to talk about that, we're going to bring in the Fox Tampa Rays sideline reporter, Trisha Whitaker. Trisha, thanks so much for joining us. How has your quarantine been so far?
Boring, very boring. All I do is check Twitter to see when baseball is going to start again. It's been fine. I'm back home in Indiana. I mean, what was I going to do in Florida? Just sit there. And I decided to foster a dog.
Dale.
Dale. He's the biggest. He's a literal, you guys, he's a horse. I fostered a horse. He's huge. He's like a mix between a hound and a lab. So I'm fostering him. He's up for adoption. I can't adopt him, obviously, because of my schedule. Who knows where we're going to be? Who knows where we're going to play baseball? But yeah, it's been boring, but that's life. There's a lot of other people with, at least it's boring. That's the thing. At least, everybody's healthy and it's boring. So yeah.
Trisha, we were just talking, or you go for it, Austin.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, we just talked about The Last Dance. I wanted to get your opinions on that documentary, on MJ opinions and what that's looking like.
Well, I'm like you, Tamar. I'm very behind. I am only on episode 3, so no spoilers. It's been awesome to watch. I was I'm showing my age here. I was almost too young to like understand what was going on at the time. I mean, I was like 6 or something. I mean, I was young. So I didn't really watch it happen, but I always knew about it. I always knew about Michael Jordan and everything. So I can't really give my whole opinion on it because I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm anxious to watch the whole thing, but I'll tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. I am so tired of the LeBron James Michael Jordan debate. I cannot take it. Stop. Like, why can't we just appreciate greatness for what it is at the moment or what it was? Like, stop it. I don't want to talk about that. They were both great players. The NBA has changed dramatically and they're different players. I can't. I'm so tired of it. Everybody's like, oh, I'm listening to this podcast debate about MJ and LeBron James. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Honestly, that debate has been going on for years. And now I thought we were rid of it. And then The Last Dance came out and here we are again. It's just, I can't.
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, these players put their heart and soul into it. And there's people like Magic Johnson, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan. They're all greatest of all times. It's not just one. There doesn't have to be just one. So
No,
I completely agree with that.
Comparison is the thief of joy. And I firmly believe that comparison is the thief of joy. You are taking the joy out of watching Michael Jordan and LeBron James if you're constantly comparing the two.
Exactly. Why can't we just enjoy the fact that they are both ridiculous athletes, incredibly talented basketball players, and they're both really good and fun to watch. And I could sit there and watch MJ highlights for hours. I mean, that man was so talented. What else has been getting you through in terms of TV shows, activities? What else is kind of getting you through your time back at home?
Disney Plus, wine, and my dog. That's what's been getting me through. Honestly, like, I think it's important to try to find the silver linings of everything. And that sounds kind of strange saying. The coronavirus is terrible. Obviously, it's affecting a lot of people and it's horrible, but you have to try to look at some of the positives. And one of the positives is I get to hang out with my family a lot more during the season. I mean, it's go. Like right now, what is it, May 18th? Mm-hmm. We would have been almost 2 months into the season right now. And I probably would have seen my parents maybe once, maybe. And so I'm just kind of hanging out with them and appreciating the little things in life, going on walks. And I mean, I think if baseball does come back, and hopefully when it does, I will never take for granted a day at the park again. Like, I mean, not that I love my job and I've been very vocal about how much I love my job. Tomorrow is in my class. Poor Tamar.
I loved it.
She had to listen to me tell stories and just talk about how much I love the team. But I love it. But there are days where I don't care what anybody says. There's no sport that's more of a grind than baseball. There is not. It's every single day. You go to the park and you deal with a lot of different things. And I just don't know that I will ever complain again. I hope baseball comes back. Right now, it's a mess. It's just not the negotiations between the owners and the players have been, tough.
Well, we've heard, I mean, Blake Snell has been one of the more public quotes out there, but what else are you hearing? Are you hearing anything from the Rays, from the coaching staff, anything about a possible return?
So here's what I always tell people. This situation is so unique. Obviously as like reporters and journalists, we're always looking for the truth. We're always looking to get the scoop before it happens. But it's honestly true that like none of us know. Like nobody knows what's going to happen. Even the people making the decision, they don't know what's going to happen because this is very much dictated not only by the virus, right, but also by the players and the owners and what they want. So just because the owners want this and the players want this doesn't mean it's going to happen, so we don't know. I have no idea. Obviously you guys know we've heard so many different plans. One of them was go out to Arizona, basically like everybody plays in the greater Phoenix area at a bunch of the facilities around there. The other plan was Grapefruit League and Cactus League. So Arizona and Florida, which works out well for the Rays because we're already there. But then all of a sudden it was like, well, it might be normal again. We might be doing a normal thing, but then it's kind of like, well, there's not going to be any fans. So what's the point of traveling to New York or Boston if there's not going to be fans? Why wouldn't we all just play in the spring training facilities in Florida? Like, it just, there's so many things, and it's one of those frustrating unknowns. The phrase, I hate this phrase so much because it's so overused, and I hate when athletes say it, but it is so true. You have to control what you can control. And right now, I can't control a thing. Nobody cares what I think. I don't have any say in the matter. I just want my job back. I mean, the reality of it is, like, I don't really have a job right now, like I do FaceTime interviews and stuff, but like I do that like once a week. I don't really have a job. And technically these players don't really have a job right now either. I mean, they're working out and stuff, but like, it's just, I want to get back to baseball. I want them to come to an agreement. And I am going to be honest, I'm tired of the back and forth. I'm tired of one person saying this and one person saying that. Well, we should get this, we should get that. Just decide what happens, because this is affecting more people than just, the players and the owners. It affects everybody. And I understand everything has to be fair. And honestly, everybody has really good points, but let's just figure it out, because there are a lot of people unemployed right now because baseball's not happening. And I just want it to happen. And I want us to be safe. Like, they've already laid out a plan of how we're going to be safe. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. But we got to get it figured out, because this is driving everybody crazy.
Yeah. What are some of the protocols you've heard maybe from the Rays if you were to come back?
I haven't heard anything from the Rays about this, because honestly, it's not even like the Rays' decision. It's MLB's decision. And it's also probably like, I'm not an expert on this. I will do whatever they tell me to do. But it's not the Rays' decision. It's not Fox's decision. There's a much larger picture happening here. So, I mean, I think some of the things I've seen is, testing. We would all get tested. And I don't know if it would be on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis. I don't know, but we would get tested. If somebody was positive, you'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks. And the one thing I saw was that you would have to have 2 negative tests in order to come back. And that's smart. Those are like really smart things. How feasible is it? I don't really know. It sounds like it's feasible, which is great. Cool. Let's do it. The other thing, that I've read, I mean, again, I don't have any inside information. The other thing I've read is just that, we have to keep social distance. And that makes my job a little challenging. I don't know how I'm going to interview the players, but I'm going to try. I might have to get like a stick that goes onto the mic and I just hold it out and it's like 6 feet away or something. I don't know. But distancing ourselves, getting tested a lot. I think having your temperature taken every time you enter the ballpark, which is all good. That's all good things. Like, those are all things we should do. But I don't think we're actually going to know what happens and what's going to happen until it actually happens. So.
And now, obviously, the decision makers are much higher than what you're able to connect with. And obviously, you're reading things online. What would you do? What would be your ideal scenario right now? I mean, it's so difficult, but.
I mean, my ideal scenario, and again, I don't know some of the challenges and logistics of it. I'm not the one that has to deal with the travel. I'm not the one that has to deal with the equipment. I don't have to deal with any of that. So logistically, to me, what seems like it would probably be the easiest and safest and most logical would be the Grapefruit and Cactus League idea, right? So the Grapefruit League in Florida and the Cactus League in Arizona, and we do that. That seems to me like it would be the best idea, because if we're not playing with fans anyways, then what's the point of traveling to all these cities? But then, the players are like, well, why do I have to be away from my family? Can my family come? And that's a legitimate thing. Like, I don't have a right to tell them what makes them happiest or most comfortable, but to me, logically, that would probably be the best thing to do. Grapefruit League and Cactus League. And that's not just because we play in Florida. It's nice, but if we play the Yankees all the time and the Yankees are in Tampa, we play the Red Sox all the time. They're in Fort Myers. Like, it's right there. I feel like you reduce a lot of risk. And I'm not a medical professional, I don't really know, but it seems to me like you would reduce a lot of risk by keeping it in the same area. And, you know, we're not getting on a plane as much then. We're driving to the parks. If I had to, you know, wave a wand, I would just say, everybody's healed and let's go back to the way things were, but I can't. So that seems to me like it would work the best.
Right. And people are just craving for anything they can do to get their hands on sports. So it's the conversation is difficult because it's not just when this coronavirus goes away, it's how do we start to slowly bring baseball back? And now another thing I was going to ask you is in terms of what you're doing right now. You say you're interviewing a couple players, but that's all you're really doing. So how do you come up with those ideas? What are you talking about? What's the conversation?
Gosh. So we're right now on Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Sun. We're airing classic games. So one of the games that we just aired was game 162 in 2011 when the Rays beat the Yankees. They came back from a 7-run deficit and they made the postseason. That was one of the craziest days in baseball all around. There's a whole documentary on that day in particular. But anyways, we aired that game, and we've been airing a lot of games from their 2008 World Series run when they went to the World Series. And so I've been interviewing some players that were on those teams. So Evan Longoria and Carlos Pena. Interviewed both of them the other day. And then some of the interviews are just like, hey, you know, Willie Adames, what you doing? What you up to? What's going on? Show us what you're cooking. Like, I mean, things like that, because what else are you supposed to talk about? We don't have a season to talk about. So things like that. It's called Inside the Rays at Home Edition. So you're at home, I'm at home, we're on FaceTime together, and we're doing an interview. That's basically it.
What do you miss the most? I mean, there's obviously a lot of things I'm sure you miss about your job. Is there a specific ballpark, a specific player you miss talking to? What do you miss the most about your job?
This is going to sound so cliche, but the people, I just miss the people. Like, I am with those people more than I'm with my own family. So for literally, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, almost 8 months, depending on whether or not you make the postseason. You're with those people every single day. I'm on a plane with the team. I'm at the hotel with the team. I'm at the park with the team. I'm on the bus on the way to the game with the team. And I just miss all of them. You become like a family. I miss our routines. I miss our flights. We had so much fun on our flights. You know, we'd fly from Boston to Oakland, and that's a long flight. It's just, I miss that. And I miss just there's no feeling like going to the park. There's no feeling like going to a ballpark on a perfect day in May, 72 degrees, sunny, and it's baseball. Like there's something so, and this is again, cliche, so romantic and nostalgic about baseball. And I miss that feeling. I miss sitting there and living and dying by every single pitch. I miss those matchups with the Yankees, Yankee Stadium. I miss those matchups with the Red Sox at Fenway. I miss going to Toronto, one of my favorite cities. I miss it all. And I miss like the walk-offs. Like, oh, those are so much fun. Like I even miss being showered in Gatorade, like in champagne.
The ice bath.
The ice bath, everything. I miss it. You can pour an ice bath over me every single day for the rest of my life if baseball comes back. Like, I don't care. I just miss it all. I miss it all.
I just miss the unknown. We're watching all these rewatches and we know what happens. I want to get back to where I don't know what happens. That was the best part about having at least a semblance of live sports this past weekend was, hey, I don't know who's going to win this. Mm-hmm. So that's certainly nice. How is the Whitaker family? How is the family? How are you doing? What's Indiana like compared to Florida? I know you grew up in Indiana, but I mean, you gotta have gotten a little bit used to the Florida weather, right?
I'm not a big fan of Florida weather, so I miss the sunshine. I do like that about Florida. It's always sunny, but Florida weather is rough. It is so hot, and it's rough. Thank God we have an indoor stadium. So I'm actually really enjoying some of the Indiana weather. I didn't enjoy it when it was like 40 degrees and awful, but it's gotten better. So I really like spring. I like all of that. My mom is a principal, so she's been doing her Zoom like meetings and classes, and like everybody else my age, I'm like, all right, mom, you gotta like make sure you're on mute. You gotta like not do this. She doesn't know how to do any of it. My dad's a pastor. I've been singing at our virtual church service every Sunday. So yeah, I mean, they're good. We're just hanging out. Like we go on a lot of walks. We make food. My parents have like a workout room downstairs, which is nice. So I just go down there and work out and hang out with do you want to see my dog? Do you want to see
Oh,
my
I
dog?
would love to.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, he's sleeping because he's the laziest dog you'll ever meet. But here he is. Hi, Dale.
Oh my,
My
a horse.
goodness.
That's right.
All right, let me get you a close up though.
Yeah. Hi, Dale.
Hello, Dale.
Oh, he's sleeping.
Why are you so lazy? He's been doing nothing all day. Like literally nothing all day. And he just lays there. He's so lazy, but he's so cute.
Oh,
So
yeah, he's adorable.
110 pounds.
Companions.
110
110?
pounds tomorrow. Is that not?
Oh my gosh.
I have a pony. I adopted a pony. He's like, I don't want.
Did you know what you were getting yourself into?
What?
Did you know what you were getting yourself
No,
into?
I thought we were adopting like a little foxhound, like a small one, And out walks this horse. And I was like, oh, okay. And we accidentally ordered like a really big crate that was like huge. And I was like, oh wow, this is way too big. I'm gonna have a small dog. Nope. Just
Thank gosh you did. Wow. I mean, it's so nice to have that companion. Like your family's great, but to have a dog that doesn't bother you.
No, he doesn't.
It's like, is that companion?
Is there anyone more confused than dogs right now, though? I mean, they gotta be like, what is going on?
I saw like a meme the other day, and it was like, now I understand why my dog just wants to go on walks all the time, because like they stay in the house all day long. And now I'm like, Dale, you want to go on a walk? Let's go on a walk. Isn't this so exciting? But
and they get tired. That's probably why he's sleeping.
Right? Yeah, he's got dogs. We don't deserve dogs. We really don't deserve dogs.
Well, Tricia, thanks so much for spending some time with us. I know this is a tough time for all of us. We're all fortunate to be bored, as you said, and we appreciate you joining us and showing off Dale.
Dustin joining?
Yeah, Dustin is our next guest, so he'll be joining here in a moment.
Yeah, he's known me since I was a student, so he can tell you all the stories about when I was your age.
Oh, we will be sure to ask him
what I was doing in this industry. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, enjoy your time at home.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Hopefully baseball comes back.
Oh, crossing my fingers. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tricia.
Bye.
So next, like you said, Austin, we have Dustin Dopirak. He is a writer for The Athletic, staff writer, and he covers all things Indiana basketball. So, of course, IU basketball. Let's join.
Well, he joined for a moment and then he left. So we're gonna wait and see if he joins back.
Bummer. Okay,
we're gonna have to just. There he is.
Oh, he's joined. There we go.
Let's give him a second to get in, but we do tomorrow have a lot to talk about with Dustin today.
A lot to talk about. And today is the perfect day to have him with us with Christian Lander reclassifying, which we'll talk about in a moment. But there's just so much going on. Dustin, hi, how are you?
Doing good. You have me on yet?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes.
We're waiting on your. There you are. Hey.
Oh, man, okay. Took me a second.
Awesome.
And let me ask first. So your name, Dustin Dopirak. Is that how you pronounce it, right?
Dopirak.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Dopirak. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I'm big on getting the name pronunciations right, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So first tell us just what's life in quarantine like for you? What have you been doing? How are you keeping busy?
Just trying to come up with something to write. I mean, obviously, The Athletic is a little bit of a different animal than just, so basically other media companies. A lot of friends of mine that are in newspapers basically just dragged into being news reporters, basically. And I kind of miss stuff like that, working with newspapers. You just kind of get just brought in on the team. With us, obviously, we're not doing the sort of just general, what are people doing, looking at various sort of like newsy items. And so it's just like, okay, like let's think of something either bigger or let's get away from the idea of coronavirus stuff. I mean, a lot of things that we've been doing lately are sort of nostalgia pieces. I mean, we've been doing these mock drafts basically where we take basically 3 guys or 3 people and say, all right, pick teams, draft teams from, Indiana history or a certain period, and we did one with Indiana, we did one with Purdue. And it's just been, all right, try to find something else to do, try to find something else to write that's off the beaten path. So, just been doing the best I can just to put something on paper. And today I did a piece on Emerson Camp, who was assistant coach at Butler. They had an interesting story. He and his wife had a baby the night of the Marquette game after they beat them in overtime and basically had to rush to the hospital. It was this whole sort of interesting story about how just what that day was like and everything. And my teammate Dana O'Neill, who's just flat out terrific, does this thing basically where she just sends emails to every SID in the whole country and says, hey, pitch me a story. Tell me something interesting. And Butler sent that one to her, and she's like, hey, I've got a lot of other stuff on my plate I've got to get done. Is this something you'd be interested in? Butler also kind of reached out and said kind of the same thing. I said, hey, why not? Let's do it. So it's just basically, just sort of jumping on anything that we can do. I mean, I did a story on Knicks last week, I think, just on what it's like for them. Basically, I know they just started doing takeout and that sort of thing, and sort of, pitching the importance of, here's what Knicks means to Bloomington, to Indiana basketball. And I was lucky enough to be watching Twitter and see sort of an exchange between Jordan Hulls and Anthony Leal that I thought was a good sort of centerpiece for that they, Jordan had gone and Leal was talking about how great Knicks was. And I was like, okay, this sort of tells you something about Bloomington and Indiana basketball and what Knicks means. And then therefore what a college bar means to that town and what a college bar is going through right now, because it's even tougher, I think, than even most establishments, because so many kids leave town. I mean, they're not even there to get takeout, basically, and haven't been for a while. I mean, I don't know if you guys both left town immediately or if you stayed around in your apartments in Bloomington or how you handled it, but a lot of people obviously left, so they get hit even harder than other businesses in the country are getting hit. So I thought that was an important story to do. And we have our support local section where we do a lot of those pieces. So that was another thing I just try to look for, is like, here's a way to spend my time, here's something to write about.
I mean, well, IU is giving you at least a little bit of off-season stuff to talk about. Today, the breaking news, we locked into having you here about an hour after it came out. Christian Lander reclassifying. I guess your first thoughts on that. What does that do for Indiana? What does that do for Christian Lander, Archie Miller, all the different subjects in the story?
Yeah, well, obviously it was an idea he was pursuing from the beginning. From the time he committed to Indiana, he said he was going to try to reclass. And it's really just a case of he's been working toward that. I mean, I talked to the family about a month ago just to sort of, kind of reach out and figure out, okay, how is this going? What do you even do? I don't even know. Reclassification to me sounds like something just totally foreign, because I think back to when I was in high school before we had online classes. We barely even had online as a concept at that point. And it was, okay, how do you, I can't imagine squeezing my senior year into my junior year. I literally can't fathom it. So it's like, okay, how are you doing this? So I reached out to them and talked to him a while back, and he said, and he didn't want to be quoted talking about it then, because he just thought, all right, I'm trying to do this. I don't want to guarantee I'm going to pull it off, because I'm literally just starting. So it was really just a case of how far could he get by sort of a go, no go point. I mean, I'm going to try to call him later and find out, okay, how far has he really gotten? He probably hasn't finished everything by this point, because I know he had to finish, I think, 4 whole classes that he had to go through. And it was like sort of an IU high school, like it's sort of an online portal, I guess you can get through Indiana, that he could take those classes. So it's something that he'd been working on, and I don't think he wanted to go ahead and sign a letter of intent before he could say, all right, I'm definitely going to make it. Like I'm going to be able to pull this off. But it was obviously something he wanted to do. He thought it was important for him to, I think, play with this team to get to Indiana a little bit faster. And I think he wants to play with Trace Jackson Davis. I think that's one really important thing for him, is the opportunity to be on the floor with him, just in case Trace blows up this year and ends up being, ends up leaving early, ends up leaving after his sophomore year. I think he wanted to find out what it was like to be kind of a pick and roll partner with him, throw in some alley-oops and stuff like that, and sort of benefit from that. It obviously means a lot to Indiana, I think, because you're just having a more explosive guard. I mean, I think, obviously losing Devontae Green is the guy that could, for all the other things that he could do, for as stressful as it was to watch him play basketball, he could put the ball in the hoop. And you needed somebody that was going to be able to be a little more explosive, be able to score a little bit more. I mean, they have decent guards coming back in Al Durham and Rob Finney and Armand Franklin, guys that are capable and functional and do the right stuff, but they're not necessarily blowing up and giving you 20, 25, 30, or a huge number of assists. They're solid guys. They do their job pretty well. But I think they looked at it, obviously Indiana thought they needed more, to go get somebody like that. And, they're going to be bringing in obviously several wings with Leo and Galloway, and Geronimo coming in. But I think they needed a lead guard, a guy they could look at and say, this guy's going to go score points. Now it's going to be interesting to figure out, okay, can he and Finney play together? Can you put those guys on the floor at the same time? Is it going to be more Lander comes off the bench and learns from Finney for a while and then blows past it next year? I mean, what's that going to be like? Because I think Lander's a more explosive athlete. He's faster, he's quicker, he's smoother. Rob is solid, he's steady, he does the right thing all the time. And he's, again, he's a strong player. He's a good, solid basketball player. He's not going to get cut out of the rotation entirely, but it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But they certainly just need more explosion, more, again, a guy that can score more points. Lander can definitely do that for you. You can get buckets in a bunch of different ways. And is really good at seeing the floor, really good in the open floor, in transition. He just does a lot of things really well. I mean, defensively, he's going to be interesting because he's not a really big guy, but he's got some more length to him. And he's really fast. He's a really good ball hawk. I mean, I got to see him play a little bit with Indiana Elite last year with he and Anthony Leon Galloway on the same team. And he's really good at just getting after ball handlers and taking the ball away and turning that into transition stuff. So at least at that level. Now, again, the fact that he's playing a bit early, I mean, he does not have a man's body yet. And he's going to have a hard time building one without being able to go to Bloomington now and be a part of a college strength and conditioning program. He's going to walk in the door probably with a high school kid's body. And again, he's got a lot of juice to him, but you look at his arms and you're like, okay, that is a high school kid. That is a kid that hasn't seen the inside, hasn't spent that much time in a weight room. The man's got to do some more curls and some more, benches and stuff. It's going to take him a while to get there, but again, you're going to be able to play on some just pure basketball talent for a while, and he's still going to be productive. Again, the question is just going to be, okay, how much is he going to be able to hang? And I'm sure he's doing stuff at home, but there's only so much that you can do at your house with, who knows how much of a gym he has. I don't know. So that's going to be sort of interesting to see how he deals with that fact. I mean, and not only the weightlifting, but also just the conditioning set of it. Obviously, he's probably running around, playing some basketball, but it's nothing like what they make you do when you actually show up on campus and you've got to run with all those guys. So there's going to be a lot that he's going to miss depending on how long the shutdown goes and how long it is before they can actually get together and work out.
Dustin, I don't want to know what you think when I walk in the press room. Do you think like that's a middle school media man? Like what do you,
I'm 38 and I still have a middle schooler's body. So let's not act like I'm walking in with, bicep guns or anything like that. So let's be real. I have no room to judge anyone.
That's fair. But I went to high school with Caleb Swanigan when he reclassified, and he did it after his sophomore year. He jumped to a senior. So he was able to get another extra summer. I can't imagine like Lander doing it all in one summer. Seems crazy. But
he's a smart kid. I think he's a 3.9. I think he told me he was carrying a 3.95. So it wasn't like totally out of the realm for him. It was just like, okay, let's just pile this on. But and for that aspect, for as much as it doesn't help the physical aspect, the academic aspect, quarantine has actually helped him because he's not going to school, like you're not even, no travel, no practice, no anything. Like everything that he's doing in his house. So that makes it easier. It's just on his own pace. Now, obviously, I'm going to think during the day stuff, they're taking Zoom classes, so he has to be in front of the computer doing what everybody else is doing. But the online class is just him ripping through it, just him reading the book, and I think when I talked to him, he was pretty far through an econ class. I think was sort of the first thing he was taking. I think he was, I can't remember if he was doing them one at a time or two at a time, but I think he had to take 4 or 5 classes on top of his regular stuff. But I mean, I think they had a spring break that basically became like a 2 or 3 week spring break because it happened right as everything hit and sort of everything was shut down for a little while. So he wasn't doing anything with Evansville Rights, wasn't taking any high school classes and was just focusing on his college stuff. And then, he had to pile this on after that, but all the same, like it becomes a lot more manageable. And basically it ends up being sort of more like a 9-to-5 job is effectively, I think, what it probably turned out to be. I think when I talked to him last, he was just getting into high school classes again. They were just starting to do that. And he was just starting to figure out, okay, where am I going to fit this in where I have to take all this stuff? Mm-hmm. So that made it easier. Basically all of that made him it allowed him to just sit home and focus. Probably was bored out of his mind, but he got, I don't know. Again, I don't know how far along he is. I don't know what classes are done and what he still has to finish. But I imagine, the way he was talking about at the time is certainly allowed him to accelerate the process that he didn't have anywhere else to be.
I mean, I feel like this is a new era for Indiana, for IU basketball with Archie Miller coming in. He's been recruiting so well in Indiana. How do you think that he's been able to come and do that coming from Ohio?
Yeah, I think first off, he knew he had to do it. And to be fair, just about every coach who comes into Indiana is aware that's what they have to do, because that's why you take the job. That's your natural resource. If someone's to tell you, okay, what's the purpose? Why do you want the Indiana job? It's because that talent is always going to be there. You know, you're going to have just the huge amount of talent is always going to be in Indianapolis, and there's going to be guys dotted out throughout the state at any given point in time. That, you know, some areas are going to be better than others at other points, but you're going to have access to, you know, a lot of basketball talent. You know, the coaches aren't going away. Like, you're always going to have good athletes, but they're also going to be well coached because the state cares. And like, I don't think you understand until you get to Indiana. Certainly I didn't understand until I moved here and took the beat in 2009, what it really looks like. Why is it that Indiana has this advantage? Why is it that you know, it's constantly producing these kinds of kids? And it's because, again, like, it's just so important. It's just such a part of the culture. And these kids are taught well when they're young. You know, they're taught well when they're young, that they know more at 6 or 7 than we knew at 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, like, you know, at a place that doesn't care about it as much. I mean, these kids know what a shell drill looks like, you know, when they're like 8 or 9. They're doing ball handling drills that are advanced when they're little kids. So they are much further along than everybody else. So if you're an Indiana basketball coach, you know, coming in, this is what I have to do. I have to recruit the state first. How do I do that? And Tom Crean did that too. You know, don't forget, for as much heat as he got towards the end, as not doing it as well, you know, from the beginning, I mean, he got Cody Zeller, he got Yogi Ferrell, he got Jordan Hulse, he got Derek Elston. I mean, it wasn't like he came in and didn't notice that Indiana is a big thing. I think what's interesting here, the interesting story, you know, getting Lander, what makes Lander, I think, intriguing is, you know, he gets Romeo Langford and Trace Jackson Davis during the honeymoon phase. It becomes harder to recruit once you've lost, you know, once you have had a season that was a disappointment. And I think that made Lander kind of a big deal, because I think after 18, 19, when, you know, Langford has a good year, but, you know, they don't make the NCAA tournament with, you know, one of the best high school players in the history of Indiana. It's like, okay, what's up with this guy? And they'd already had Trace Jackson and Davis in the fold, so it wasn't like he could lose him. You know, fortunate, I think, in a sense, with the 2020 class, that there wasn't a top 10 guy. You know, Anthony Leo was right around 190, whatever. Trey Galloway's kind of in the same range, where because you didn't have that really big class, you know, you're not fighting off Kentucky to go get Anthony Leo. You know, you're fighting off Stanford, and that's not easy in itself because of the academics. But Anthony Leo always wanted to come to Indiana. You're going to have a hard time losing Anthony Leo. You know, so that allows you to keep some momentum with, you know, even when you're sort of dragging a rough record. And I was surprised that he got Lander. You know, to be totally honest, I was surprised, because I mean, I'd heard a lot else that there was no chance, that he had no, you know, possibility that he was a Kentucky lean, or he was a Louisville lean, or he was looking somewhat place bigger than that. I remember, like, you know, interviewing him and mentioning Indiana, you know, again, last spring in Dallas, and he just didn't seem all that excited. So I was kind of surprised. You know, and it wasn't long after he took an official visit. He seemed to be, you know, from what little snippets I could see of him during the game, seemed to be having a good time. And then it was within days, he was like, okay, I'm pulling the trigger here. So that shows that Archie's sticking with it and not getting behind, not losing, I guess, not losing faith or losing hope, I guess, when he was having sort of a tough time. You know, it's just tougher to rebound. I mean, that's, again, to go back to Crean, you know, he found it tougher to rebound after, you know, he had a couple, you know, tough seasons, you know, 2013, 14 in there. You know, that was when he sort of said, you know, what the heck with it. I mean, he had some bad situations with Indiana kids. You know, Trey Lyles had been committed to him for 3 years, decommits and goes to Kentucky. There were some other sort of back and forth stories, basically, and started to sort of, you know, there was sort of a, you know, he had reason to be mad at Indiana, and Indiana had reason to be mad at him. I mean, the connection just wasn't there anymore, and he had to go elsewhere. But Archie was sort of, I think, able to, after a rocky period, get it back together but just continue to show dedication to getting the Indiana kids. So, I mean, you know, Lander's a big deal because he's the type of guy that can keep it rolling going forward. You know, that a guy like a Trey Kaufman becomes more interested because, oh, you got Lander? Okay, all right, I'm going to listen a little bit more. And, you know, guys sort of in future classes are going to be like, okay, all right, like, this wasn't just a honeymoon phase thing where everybody jumped on before you've done anything. And you were just a new guy everybody was signing on when you're selling, oh, I'm going to be so great. And then when you start losing, everyone's like, well, maybe it's not going to happen as fast as you said it would. when you can keep getting guys after that period, when you can tell that it's going to be a little bit more of a slog, that it's not going to be a straight rocket ship to a national championship, that takes some doing. And it says a lot for him and the rest of the staff that he was able to keep at it with a guy like Lander.
Well, we haven't even talked about the guy he wants to play with yet, TJD, Trace Jackson Davis. He returns. It wasn't the biggest shock, I think, to most around the program, maybe that he didn't test the waters. That, along with Demezi transfers and Justin Smith is testing the waters. We're not really sure what waters there are to test right now with the NBA draft. But what's been your biggest takeaway, maybe outside of Lander, from this offseason for Indiana so far?
Well, then the good part about it is that there hasn't been a lot. It hasn't been very happening, and quiet is good, basically, especially in a situation like this. Quiet is good, and I think also another beat I covered, Purdue has had more noise, and basically I think a situation like this, when everybody is stuck in their house, gives everybody an opportunity to sit around and think a little bit more, and that can be dangerous. I think for a college basketball program, when you're not on campus enjoying the spring, taking the time to enjoy what you have, you sit around and think about what you could have that could be better. That leads for some opportunities for you to think about, am I really happy here? Where, basically if you're continuing, if you just get the momentum off of the season, you're on campus, spring's a good time to be in college, like on campus and stuff like that, there's always fun stuff going on. You don't feel like it's a place you want to leave. You're spending time with your friends, which may or may not be on the team. You don't feel as much of a pull and tug to go. Usually you have guys transfer immediately after, and like as soon as they get done with the season, you're like, all right, I don't like this anymore. I'm done. It rarely do you have a situation where guys wait a month or 2 months and then they decide they want to pull the trigger. So you saw that happen with Purdue. The fact that it hasn't happened with Indiana is a good sign. It tells you, okay, everybody's locked in, everybody feels good enough about how 2019-20 went. So that's good. I mean, Demezi Anderson, I've pegged him for a transfer back in January. I don't think anyone's really surprised. He certainly had to see the writing on the wall that, all right, you didn't get any playing time this year. How do you think you're getting any playing time in your last 2 seasons? You got more wings coming in with Leo and Galloway and Geronimo. Like, there's not going to be any more playing time. Basically, Devontae Green's gone, but there's still all these guys, Lander coming in, and where does Demezi Anderson really fit? And so he had time to think about that. And that was obviously the smart move. At the end of the day, like, just you're not going to play. And, I think all the guys knew that. I have a hard time thinking that the coaching staff was like, no, Demezi, you're wrong. You were definitely going to play this year, even though you only played 20 games last year and sat out the rest of them. And you were the one guy that when we said, we're going to cut down the rotation, you were the one guy that got cut out of the rotation. Like, what does that say? I think they liked him more than that said, but ultimately, again, he's a guy that was expected to transfer. And for Trace, I don't think anyone expected him to leave because, I know on our San Vicini, who's our NBA draft guy, had him 90th on our big board. And, if there are 3 rounds to the draft, you're the last guy picked in the 3rd round, and there are 2 rounds to the draft. So he's not really close to going. So it doesn't make sense for him to pull the trigger early, where best case scenario, if everything goes right, you're a late 2nd round draft pick if you get lucky. And that's not likely. That's probably not going to happen. So, it made a lot of sense for him. But I think what's good for Indiana, what stands out is he made a point to, it seems dumb, but, make a video on the day of the deadline to say, hey, I'm definitely coming back, and look how excited I am to be back. So I think that's good news. Just not that you would expect him not to be, but it was like, he wasn't interested in testing the waters. He wasn't upset that he wasn't going to get picked. It wasn't something that he was like mad about. Oh, I can't believe I'm not going to get drafted after my freshman year, even I was McDonald's All-American. What's wrong here? Whatever. He was like, all right, let's go do this. This is my year. This is my year to blow up. I saw what it was like. I was pretty successful as a freshman. I'm going to go into my sophomore year, and I'm jacked about what I'm capable of and what I can do. And I think, got to talk to a little, some guys on the staff, on background, and they look at it like, hey, he can make the leap that Daniel Otero and Jalen Smith made, of Minnesota and Maryland. Those guys probably are going to be, 1st round picks, in this draft, whenever it may occur. And they look at it and say he can make a similar leap. Obviously the interesting part for Trace is he's not 6'11", 7 foot. He's not tall enough to be a center. He can be a small ball center, I guess, but probably not as tall as what you want as a center. He probably looks, looks like a power forward at the NBA level, and he hasn't shown he can shoot from outside yet. He hasn't proven that's part of it. And basically with the NBA game being as wide open as it's become at this point as a power forward, you got to be able to shoot it. You got to be able to handle it on the perimeter. It's more of a 4-out, 1-in game or a 5-out game. So he's got to be, got to show some improvement there to get picked a little bit higher. But, he's 6'9", 245. He's not a small kid. He shows a lot of ability around the basket, showed a lot of ability to rebound, block shots, run the floor. He's going to be a valuable guy. He's going to be an NBA player at some point. It's just a question of when and how high he gets picked. But he certainly has the ability to become a really, really effective college player as a sophomore. He certainly, imagine he learned a lot about, okay, what's it look like against some of these other guys? You take some of those other great players out of the picture, take an Xavier Tillman out of the picture, probably one of the best, probably the best defensive player in the league, take Oturo out, take Jalen Smith out. And it's like, okay, there's a lot more battles he can win. Basically in the league. He's going to grow up a little bit, and a lot of the other teams are going to be playing younger guys, so he's going to have some ability there. Maybe he'll see Kofi Coburn, maybe he won't. That's going to be a beast of a matchup again if they have to, if Coburn is still at Illinois, if he decides to come back. So there'll be some interesting matchups, but I think he's looking at it and saying he should be a first-team All-Big Ten guy. He should, at the very least, should be part of that conversation. If he's not it, he should be one of the last guys left off. He should be one of the top 5 or 10 players in the Big Ten in 2020-21.
Okay, Dustin, get Indiana fans excited here. What is, if you had to make a May 18th proclamation based on the few offseason moves they've made, where is this team sitting right now in the Big Ten and maybe even nationally?
I mean, I think you're seeing him pop up in the top 25 and the top 5 in the league. And I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't think you can look at it and say, okay, this team is ready to go win a title. Probably not. But it's going to be more competitive. I mean, I think you're still looking at issue as, okay, they've got to prove they can shoot it. They haven't done that yet. They've got to figure out ways to make this whole thing work. I mean, you've got to see what Lander is going to be, and when he actually gets on campus and looks like a college player. You got to see what kind of, does Rob Phinisee, can he stay healthy, and does he make a leap if he finally can, if he can this year, if he gets a real shot? I think Phinisee is going to be interesting because I feel like he deferred to Devontae Green, whether he said so or not. He felt like, all right, especially this season, look to Devontae to make plays, with the Romeo to make plays the year before. And maybe he has to take more of a, not just of a leadership role, but just to take the reins more, just take more of a grip. Does Armand Franklin make a leap? Does Jerome Hunter, do you see the Jerome Hunter that he was supposed to be? Now, basically, he's a whole year past everything with his leg. I don't know if he still has to deal with that or not, or what exactly, kind of condition he still got with that thing. But he certainly was able to play in the high 20s as far as minutes last year. You would think he will be less encumbered by that this year. Does he become a guy that becomes a go-to scorer? Where does Justin Smith play exactly? What does his role end up being? How does that change? Does he do the same thing? Does his minutes come down? Does he say to heck with it? And even if he doesn't get drafted, try to just go pro and get out? Who knows? What does all that look like? I mean, so there's a lot of pieces that need to come together, and you got to see what those other freshmen, because we start talking about Lander, we forget about Leland, Galloway, and Geronimo really fast. But do those guys come in and make immediate impacts? They all got recruited. Leo and Geronimo at least got recruited in part because they can shoot. Can they do that immediately? Do those numbers show up as freshmen? That doesn't always happen. Franklin was a good shooter. He didn't have great numbers as a true freshman. I think he's going to be a good one, but he didn't show that as a true freshman. Is Leo going to be that guy now, or is it going to take him a year or two? So you're going to see all kind of the smaller, more smaller picture questions add up into the big picture questions in terms of what they're going to be. But I think it's totally reasonable to look at them at this stage and say that's got enough pieces to be a top 25 team and therefore be a top 4 or 5 team in the league. Do I think they win the league? No, I don't necessarily say this is one of the 2 or 3 teams that can be Big Ten champion, but I definitely think that they're an NCAA tournament team. They deserve to be at least on the fringe of the top 25, maybe move into it, with Lander being now a sure thing to be on the roster. And I think, again, top 5 or 6 in the league, I think makes sense, is a reasonable expectation for this group.
Well, I could do a whole podcast on Jerome Hunter, but we'll stop it here for now. But I think thanks so much, Dustin, for joining us. Great expertise. Like you said, quiet off season is a good off season right now for Indiana. Enjoy the time at home. Stay busy, and hopefully we'll get to see you at a sporting event here soon.
Indeed. Same to you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Take care, Dustin.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Tamar. Well, we had some fantastic guests here on our first Unpaid Interns show. And as unpaid interns, we are blessed to get to talk to people like Trisha and Dustin. What was your overall takeaway from what they were able to tell us today? Oh, Tamar. Yeah, there you go. You were
Can you
muted.
hear me? Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Sorry. No,
were so
I was
excited.
just gonna say, I'm so excited. Those were two great people to get us started. I mean, Trisha, what she was saying, there's so much uncertainty right now. So just to be able to distract yourself, not have that same conversation of, I mean, we know that no one knows what's going on. So trying to find those conversations and getting those fun perspectives and just giving people some taste of sports, I think is so important right now. And then from Dustin, he had some great analysis. And even though no one's playing right now, he still has good hopes and good prospects for what the IU basketball team can be. So I thought that was really hopeful and promising. What about you? What were your takeaways?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I think I agree with most of Dustin's sentiments there. I mean, this is an IU team that got better. And for Trisha, the best part was the dog. There's no doubt about it. Sorry, Trisha, but Dale stole. You shouldn't have put Dale on the screen because he stole the show. I mean, he was great. Really should cast him in some more dog movies. But no, Dale was great. Trisha and Dustin were great. What we're going to try and do when we leave our shows here around noon, we're going to be going 11 to noon 3 times a week. We're going to try whoever's on to talk about the best thing they've seen this week. So I don't know if you have one, Tamar, best thing you've seen on social media or whatever. I'll let you go first if you have one. What's the best thing you've seen this week?
I do. I've been doing a lot of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter stalking and whatever, and just trying to get some content. So I think my favorite content that I've come across would be, I told you this, Tom Ackerman's Camo X Sports Garage Happy Hour. He did one with Ozzie Smith, and he also did one with Chris Pronger. But it's all St. Louis, which is obviously where I'm from and where I am right now. So it's really relevant to me. And just seeing Ozzie Smith and hearing him speak about just Cardinals baseball, man. I mean, that was my all-time favorite part of the week, was just getting to hear from the legend. What about you? What was your favorite?
Well, I'm going more the funny, what's amusing me type of route. Obviously, everybody's trying to do trick shots and everybody's trying to do all that jazz. I saw one yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago. The girl tossed it over her head, started doing like a TikTok dance. It hits the back of the rim and then clunks her in the head. And thankfully she's laughing about it and everything. But man, was it was very funny. And then the other one, I don't know if you saw this one from Sports Center yesterday. The dad tried to do virtual reality for the first time. He's walking on a balance beam in his living room, and he jumps like he's jumping off the building in his VR, and he jumps straight into the TV and shatters it. Giant TV, done, shattered, because he had the VR glasses on and he just jumped forward straight into a TV. The family's filming it. It was
I'm gonna
funny.
have to go
Made
check
me
that
laugh.
one out. I haven't seen that yet.
Yes.
That's
Sports
hilarious.
Center has it on Instagram. That's the type of stuff I need more. I need to laugh right now. Everybody needs to laugh right now.
Oh yeah.
We're just trying to spread the good cheer. Sports are coming back. NASCAR was back yesterday. Golf is semi back. Soccer is semi back. Baseball is trying to come back. The NFL still feels like they can start on time. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know that we will have a show on Wednesday. I do know that. That is for sure. Connor Hines will be with myself as the co-host. We have some great guests. John Blau from the Herald Times in Bloomington will be joining us to talk IU football. And then Ben Ladner, an SI reporter for the Atlanta Hawks, will be joining us to talk about the NBA and what the heck the NBA has in front of them to try and get back out onto the court and all the different scenarios that they have. But Tamar, thank you so much for jumping on here in the first episode of Unpaid Interns. I had fun. I hope you had fun. We got to talk to some great people. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe there in St. Louis, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Austin. I had the best time. I'm so excited for this summer and getting this opportunity to talk sports.
Yes, we are talking sports Monday, Wednesday, Fridays here on Unpaid Interns. You can always catch us live here on YouTube at 11 Eastern time, and then we'll turn it into a podcast. It'll be out later in the day on Spreaker Podcast. So we'll let you know. We'll give you links to that. Follow us on Twitter for all the latest news for Unpaid Interns. That'll do it here for episode 1. For Tamar and Tricia and Dustin, I'm Austin saying so long from the Zoom room.